Lil Baby.
Welcome to Conversation with Chai. I'm your host, Ram Chaudhary, aka Lil Baby Ram. Today I have with me, first we're going to start with like the home team. We're going to start with RMS out of New Jersey, and then we got Toronto, Spitty and Mrii.
Jeez.
Yo, appreciate y'all doing this. We were talking about this before, but this is a crazy squad.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This is a crazy international squad.
For real.
Appreciate y'all doing this. I was like trying to figure out like, where I kind of want to start with you guys. And I think like when I look at this team here, I like look at like real like professionals inside this like creative game, right? Like we were talking before about how long everybody here has been doing what they've been doing, right? Spitty said 2017, 9 years.
10 years, yeah.
9-10 years, right? And the thing that's always impressed me about all of y'all is the sustainability of what y'all are doing is, right? Y'all are consistently there. Like the fact that I consistently see y'all faces in the noisy environment that we're in means something, right? Like I was telling y'all, like I know what everybody has been recently doing, and that's like impressive, right? So I kind of wanted to start there because you guys are artists that have a real good understanding of the business. And I kind of want to show other creatives, like outside of like, streaming numbers and things like that. I know that y'all understand there's multiple revenues that are here, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to talk about like that, like how is an artist in 2024, almost 2025, now creating those? So like, because everyone thinks like, oh, if I'm not having 1 billion streams, I'm not making money from this. Mm-hmm. But you guys are examples of people who are able to get some money out of this, and that's not the case yet, right? But I would love to hear y'all thoughts.
Yeah, it's something Spitty and I talked about when I pulled up to Toronto too, is like, for us, we got to make sure that we're obviously focusing on the main product, but like what you were implying, there's like all these peripheral sources of income and the income streams that we also got to develop, like brand partnerships, sync. Like we had hours of conversation over, was it at the Haka place, something like that?
Yeah.
And I feel like only when we have those kind of conversations, and Mrii and I met only briefly, but I'm sure we could have the same kind of dialogue where it's like, only once we really tap into people who are focused on building in a serious and professional way, do you realize like how much work each of those individually take to set up. So, ads and all these different things that require money as an input have to be funded and sourced by these other similarly kind of creative sources of income. So figuring out how to stay diverse, but I'm sure y'all got that.
Nah, he said it beautifully. Like that's the thing is you got to minimize your costs first and figure out what actually you need to be putting your money into, A lot of artists, they just get into music because it's a hobby and it's fun. It's like something we're passionate about. But the one thing I always tell people is like no one could ever take music away from you as being a hobby. You could do that for your whole life. But if you really want to make it in the music industry, then you have to treat music like it's a business, like it's your career, like you're an entrepreneur. And so something we were just talking about before it started rolling was like your recording process. And if you could minimize like that, like Mrii has a home studio, RMS has a home studio, they're cooking up at home, they're producing and stuff, they're engineering. That saves you costs on that. Me, I go to a studio, so I'm paying that, but I work with people that I trust and that like we built relationships with. So we work out our own deals and things, and like we all believe in the finished product, you feel me? And the ads, that's a big part of it. The marketing, a lot of artists nowadays, they're still doing music videos, which is sick because we all love music videos. It's a great representation of your art form. But you're putting, in Canada, like a couple thousand, whatever, into each video minimum. Like that's like just like entry-level independent artists. And then what are you getting back on that? What's the return on investment? Is there any? Because most people were taking those videos, cutting them into 15-second vertical clips and then posting those on Reels, on TikTok, on Shorts. Could have just done that in the first place and made content directly for that, So that's a big part, is figuring out like what you're putting your money into and then how you're gonna get it back. For me, it's been, like we said, brand partnerships. I had a great brand partnership with Chivas Regals, an alcohol company. They sponsored me for a whole year. They were taking me out to festivals. They were sponsoring and putting me on the lineup and giving me bottles and helping me with that, So that was a blessing. I've worked with other companies like Timberland, for example, some companies in the UK. And then I'm working into sync. Sync is definitely a big one. Sync is basically like when your music gets put into commercials, TV, movies, that kind of stuff. And performances. Performances are big. If you can start to build that real audience and monetize on that through performances, through merch, through direct-to-fan ways where you like make a song, but don't put it on streaming on September 1st. Put it on streaming on September 8th. And then for that first week, have it exclusive for the people that pay in like $1 or whatever to get it, right? Tory Lanez did that one time when the NFTs were popping, and he he sold like 1 million album copies in one day or in like 1 minute because they were just sold as NFTs off $1. But if you sell $1 1 million times, that's $1 million.
I think like the revenue streams is like, I know you're saying that the music is always going to be with you, right? But I think the business part of it is like, that's why you see so many more South Asian DJs, because it's like more sustainable, because the revenue streams are so much more like a little bit more obvious.
Yeah, they
right?
are.
Like you can play gigs and immediately book a fee, right? You can play weddings and still book a fee while still working on the creative stuff. Like every single DJ in New York, save a few that have made it. I asked them, they're like, yo, I make all of my money off of wedding DJs.
The wedding scene is crazy.
Weddings pay
bro.
a lot. Weddings pay really well.
And it's, again, like the music is always going to be in you, but as soon as it becomes sustainable, you're able to then create on like the
more
music.
freely. You can like be more free with that. It's very fun.
I think that's like a big like crippler for musicians, because like, again, if studio time didn't cost anything, y'all would be in the studio like 12, 24 hours a day, right? But it do, right? So how am I able to continue to create for like, not just like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? 5, 10. Like I know Spitty was saying like, you're getting your cost low. That's like a basic business principle that like, it's hard for us to like switch that onto like the creative stuff. Cause again, like you do want to create. Like if somebody gave me the option and the cost was 0, like I'd be doing a pod a day.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like like, you know what I'm saying? Like you'd be making a song a day. That's all realistically, that's all you guys would be doing.
That's what I always tell people too, is like, if you're a music artist, making music is the fun part, the easy part. Like we could do that all day, no problem.
light.
We were cooking up in the studio, hours went by, we were just vibing. But the actual hard part is the marketing, the admin, the actual outreach to get your music out and to book those shows, you know? That's where the grind comes in.
And again, like I know like I've met your manager, right? Like I think that's like a part of it, like expanding your team and treating it like a business. Cause you also have to understand, like I always say like, yo, like my gaps are like, I know what my gaps are on like the business end, right? Like I'm like literally like, yo, like I need somebody to just like project management, all my like ADHD thoughts, right? Because like some of those thoughts are real things that in practice will have a true ROI. But it's like, if I can't put them together, like the creative stuff, it doesn't really matter, right? Like I think the adjacent businesses are the things that essentially fund, and we have to stop looking at it as adjacent businesses. That's
just
every
part of the
artist.
business, yeah.
That's a part of the
umbrella,
business,
yeah.
right? Like you think about like, we're obviously talking about like people that are still building, but even if you look at the most built out of artists that are doing 1 billion streams, they still have all the adjacent businesses still funneling in.
Of course. Brand partnerships, they're still paying for big billboards and marketing. They're just doing everything we're doing on a grander scale, you feel me? So you can even look at those people and be like, that's the blueprint. Now, how can I do that on the scale that I'm at? What's my network? Who do I know, you know? You're working with companies right here to collaborate. You can do the same thing as a music artist. Find companies that are in your sphere, see how you can promote them. They can maybe give you some bread or products. Start like that. And then once you're kind of in that zone, like then more opportunities will come to you.
And once you start looking at it, you see the money everywhere, right? Like you just played the Desi Trill thing in Mumbai, right?
Crazy.
You probably saw, because those guys are really good at the brand partnership stuff. You're looking around, you're like, yo, there's a check going in every single direction here, right? Like who that was at Soho House, right?
No, it was at Car Social.
Car Social.
Yeah.
That's like a big like club spot in Bombay, yeah.
Dagan, you know what I'm saying? Like the money is...
The deals work out, basically, yeah.
Like for
they
everybody.
work out really well, yeah.
For everybody, right? Because again, once you create it and create it in a viable way, like the money flow will come in, right? Like that's what brands know when they put themselves next to one of y'all. They're like, yo, at some point the money will come in, flow this way through sales of physical product, through just awareness, right? The money will flow in as long as, you know, it's like a good investment on like them, right? I think like the education of that is the barrier. I was telling y'all before this, I was like, yo, I didn't even know that media companies were like raising money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like I really thought it's like, yo, like again, similar path as like artists. Like I really thought it's like the only way is like YouTube monetization, Spotify monetization, right? So the only goal is like, yo, get that number.
Those are like the smallest percentage of my income this year is like streaming
right?
money, or YouTube or whatever,
Because essentially like you're getting like the last end of that check, right? Like the ad money came in through YouTube, then went through all the advertisers, and then it came to that whatever 3 cents or whatever that was like left over.
Yeah, exactly.
And the deal's not set up for that. Streaming's more to get your awareness out, you know? It's like to get those people and then figure out other ways. People sleep on radio. Radio still actually pays way more. That like some radio stations pay dollars per play. Sirius XM, that's satellite radio. You know the one that comes with like your cars and stuff, like free subscription? That pays up to $50 per play. I had like one song go on there, and I got a check that came in the mail bigger than all I've made in streaming ever.
From a single radio check.
From a single radio check for 1 month of airplay on Sirius XM.
Yeah, nah. I think, again, like we were talking about it, like the infrastructure is being created, right? Because at some point, like you as a DJ have definitely played one of their records, right? And at some point you will have a gig that'll be like, yo, like this me playing this will essentially move money towards RMS or move money towards like Spitty. Have you kind of seen that?
Yeah. Because sometimes you have to submit like the history like log that you played, so the money can go for those songs.
Wait, what do you mean? Like if you play like a venue?
So certain venues they ask you to send like your DJ log, so you can export the playlist of the music that you played that night, send it to them, and then those songs get the whatever SOCAN rights, or in Canada we have SOCAN.
Here it's called ASCAP or BMI. Yeah, basically like every songwriter has rights to their music anywhere it's played ever. Even if it's played at a Nike store or like your local coffee shop, technically all those places are supposed to be filling the paperwork out. Most don't, because it's mostly independent run stuff people don't know. Okay. But when you do legit stuff.
Yeah, certain venues are really tied in with the music industry, so like they have that in place.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So like that's like something that like does have a immediate impact. Yeah. So when you say that it's like being done, so how come some venues are doing it and some venues aren't?
I guess some don't know, some don't think about that. Some venues like are left under the radar because there are places where it's like, oh, you don't have the rights to play this song. Like certain venues, they tell you like, hey, you can't play these songs because we don't have the rights. Like it depends on the profit or like what venues are tapped into that. Yeah.
I'm excited when we, as like a culture, are able to like understand and identify more of those, right? Because I think there's so many aspects, again, like the interconnectedness of it all, right? There's some of us that are in the brand side of it, some of us that are in the artist side of it, some of us that are in the media side of it, right? And all of those things essentially have to work in cohesion for there to be people throw around like the word ecosystem, but like it's understanding
that's
like
what it is. Yeah.
It's understanding like the brown club promoter,
right?
Knows that,
right? Knows
that, like, yo, like we're all going to events this weekend, right? And a bunch of music by a bunch of South Asian artists will be played. I'm not 100% sure. Does the money flow that way? Because it's an probably not. So. Probably not, right?
It's like edit culture, you know, like it goes so deep. You know?
Yeah, like
there's like 4 songs in one edit and stuff.
Yeah. But it's a missed opportunity.
It is.
It's a missed opportunity.
Here you get the awareness, I guess, because your song's being played at like crazy venues with the right demographic. People might be shazamming those songs and figuring it out their own way.
Or like finding them, other DJs might
You're missing that direct, but you're getting the indirect. But you're right, there's that for sure.
Yeah. Again, like the awareness play is like something we got to stop telling ourselves. Like, I get it, right? Like, and there is a value to it, but yo, give me both.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, give me the awareness and give me like whatever bread I could make from that, right?
And it's a due diligence thing too. It's like a lot of venues could if they wanted to. It's just about like, oh, nobody's actively policing them or nobody's actively paying them to do so. So the benefit of just doing due diligence to benefit the community is low. And when you don't have incentives built in, that sort of ecosystem you're talking about in terms of everybody mutually benefiting off of these things becomes less propagated and less prevalent. But yeah, we got to be kind of like the value system creators there, where we can establish those regular practices. And then we're like, okay, cool. We have decided that the norm is to take care of our people, and we can set that moving forward. But it takes time, bro. It takes time.
But I think the mutually beneficial part is just education, because it is mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like think about it. Like if you bring in money, right? Like, and you have the place for like a media budget, right? Like that's only going to go towards like one of 3 media companies in the space, right? If I have brand budget to go get editors, it's only going towards South Asian like editors and videographers. Right? Like the money, it all is kind of just tied together based off of, again, pure relationship. We're only really building, like, we're building adjacently, but we're all building essentially together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so like as soon as like those things, and some of it, I wonder how much of it is like a bandwidth thing. Because again, like the due diligence is a time investment on somebody's business. And they're probably not looking at it as like, yo, I don't even have the time for this. You think that's like something that money solves? Like if we had more money in this, right? Does that solve all of these problems?
Maybe because then people will have more time. Maybe.
It's also maybe that provides a structure for building incentive to actually take care of that due diligence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like the money's a start, but then you still need the people that are leading the way and actually taking charge and handling everything. and being those, like, a lot of people want things to happen, but they're not the ones who want to take the charge and make it happen. You know, they just complain and say like, yo, this isn't like this, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a group of 4 people that are not that, right? But someone still has to do it with that money. And then you still need creativity. Like, you could give an artist all the money in the world, but if it's not right, if it's not, the song's not right, if it's not marketed right, if it's not creative, it's not going to go anywhere, you know? It's not just money. It still takes some essence, some human essence.
And I think that to me is the gap, and money is not the gap. That to me is the gap. There's not enough, like, think about it. In our culture, like, there's not even I don't even know anybody, and we know, like, essentially a lot of people. Do y'all know, like, a brown A&R in somebody's corner?
I think so.
Yeah, well, in someone's corner? Not really.
You know somebody getting paid to be an A&R for somebody.
Well, we have brown A&Rs now in Canada because they're so shifted on the Desi scene.
In labels.
In labels, yeah.
But not in teams.
Not on teams.
Not on teams, no.
No.
I mean, I'm sure there are that we just don't know.
Maybe.
Like, maybe within, like, Desi Trail, there's probably people.
Exactly, yeah.
Nuv Josh is an A&R
right? Like
for
yes.
Mass Appeal India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that it's such like a rarity, right? Because I do think that there's certain people that do have that information, but there's so very few of them, and there's so few of them talking to everybody else.
Yeah.
That, like, you can't create a culture around that. And I think the piece of taking somebody to the side and being like, yo.
Dhruv A&Rs for Kahani too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But somebody, like, moving somebody to the side and being able to say, like, again, y'all are artists, so I'm creative that's close to your art.
Yeah, yeah.
But somebody to tell you, like, yo, this is what you actually need to improve on, right? Or this is what will bring money into it. I don't think that there's enough of those.
The development, yeah. The
development, like the artist development. Because you're an artist, you're trying to, like, develop on your craft. You're not really trying to develop, and that means just, like, working on the art. But like, somebody to tell you, be like, yo, like, you actually also need to develop this. Yeah. Otherwise, like, the art really doesn't matter.
Or, like, even point you in a direction, because a lot of artists are so creative that they can do a lot, but to really make it or to create a brand, you need to sometimes focus and to be organized, you know?
You said that Canada, you feel like they're like really leaning into the...
Oh, yeah. It's a complete wave right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
So, like, it's all definitely started from the Punjabi scene, you know? That's, like, what... Canada has the most Punjabi people outside of India, basically, in the world. And that's definitely the scene that we've grown the most of because of, like, the connection to the UK. And obviously it really blew up when Sidhu was getting big. And then we had other guys like AP Dhillon and Karan Aujla. And so now they're just hyper focused on that scene. And they're mainly signing people in that space, but it's starting to spread. I would say Hanuman Kind really opened the doors for them to start looking at people that are brown, but they're not necessarily rapping in any other language outside of English. And all the labels are going for them. So Warner has Karan Aujla, but then AP, he held off. And he got signed down here to Republic. Because, I mean, this is kind of like controversial thing that someone told me, but like the labels in Canada, they don't really have much going for them, you know? All the power and money is down here in the US. And this artist who's been signed and stuff told me like the labels here, look at the Canadian labels and some of the other country labels is like a joke.
I mean, like, the US, again, infrastructure-wise, musically, has had more time to develop it. Yeah. Right? Like, when you think about, let's just objectively look at music. If you look at, like, the top 5 artists of the world, like, there's, like, a lot of them that just come out of, like, the US. So, like, again, that equates to dollars, which then equates to more infrastructure. Exactly. Which then equates to, like, we just have a machine to hit.
So you can see it, too, like, with AP's new album versus, like, Karan Aujla's last album or whatever, the features that are on there. You're not getting Gunna if you're on Warner Canada. You're not getting Arya Star.
Who's Hanuman Khan attached to? Because the
Warner. So they have Icky. Warner Music in Canada has Icky and Karan Aujla. You know Icky?
No.
He's the main producer for all of Karan Aujla's music. Okay. Yeah. He produced a song for Diljit and Tory Lanez.
No, who had Hanuman Khan signed?
Capital.
So yeah,
Capital here.
But he was on Def Jam.
Like, how are you getting the ASAP feature?
Exactly.
But he was on Def Jam in India. And he got the ASAP on his own. ASAP's on Sony. So I think ASAP just really like tapped in, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good play for them, right? Like, obviously, like...
He's always big on Houston too, ASAP. So it's like it's a perfect kind of collab for him.
But that's interesting. So that you can be signed in multiple countries?
No. He got so Def Jam, Capital are all under Universal. Okay. So he got moved basically from Def Jam.
Everybody under Universal, realistically.
Right? Like, mostly now in rap scene for sure. But yeah, he went from Def Jam India, and then Capital picked him up. Our one boy, Mustafa, who works with Def Jam out here in America. He was telling us like team was cheese that somehow he didn't go from Def Jam India to Def Jam America. He jumped and went to Capital, you know?
Yeah. There's whole internal politics.
Within the label itself.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Yeah. Right? Because hip hop is like big enough, right? Like we know all of those things like behind the scenes like that have in the past, right? Like we know Tata pepper spraying like R. Kelly on tour and you know
right.
Like we don't really have that level of like even journalistic coverage on like the US stuff. Like I'm actually like this is all like news to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like you know what I'm saying? As somebody I'm probably more tapped in than most, right? But again, like those are things that like people would be curious about. But again, where's that info? Like where is that info? Outside of like I'm sure y'all just know through like personal relationships, conversations.
That's how it is, right? That's how it is. You learn through just the connections and the people you meet and through experience. There's no like guideline, but finding that community around you and then slowly starting to build through that's like the best way to figure it out.
My third party observation, y'all were kind of talking about it before, just you guys even knowing each other, right? Like I do feel like everybody who is building at everybody kind of knows everybody, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like you guys have had a relationship prior to obviously like just this, right? Toronto, New York, right? New York and everybody in New York, right? UK, like with the fact that like we know like Shabs too, and they see Trill in the UK, like there is that interconnectedness.
There's a lot of overlaps. Yeah.
Happening, being developed slowly, right?
Yeah.
Like I would say like when y'all see that, right? Like, do you think that there's an opportunity for more in terms of interconnectedness?
I think it's like exponential, you know, the way it grows.
Because everybody's already connected, right?
It's like snowball effect, and then it just starts building up. We're kind of in that for real. It feels like it.
It does.
It's like that, yeah.
You have to have like an active voice in it, though. Like
That's
I think
true.
so.
You have to consistently be. Like,
you have to consistently be it. Like I think like that's like the part. Like we do one, and then we just like, oh, we met somebody, right? But like it realistically should be as like anytime somebody comes in from like the UK, like I'll immediately throw like Vi's name, RMS me like, oh, did y'all tap in with them?
For sure.
Because I know everybody's limited on time, but if I could just make that one, it is a snowball effect.
Yeah. I seen RMS in the studio with Young Sammy. I'm waiting for that joint. Come on.
Yeah, that's a good one, bro. I'm hyped for that.
Bro, and I asked him, and he's like, oh yeah, we were just in the studio yesterday. I was like, that's amazing. I would love to be the one that connected you, but I'm glad that y'all connected, right?
Figured it
just
out.
off of because then again, his fans should listen in and tap in here, right?
Of course.
Like your fans should go in and tap over there, right? And vice versa.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why people like Dan like really facilitate some of that, where they're like really trying to make those connections happen. And that's why it was important even for us to pop out to Toronto, because I feel like some of it is intentional. Some of it's by accident, we run into each other and whatever, and some of it you have to kind of make an active effort to be like, okay, cool. These Toronto people, these people in Canada have like a crazy scene, right? A crazy a movement that's like bubbling up with a lot of exciting people that are a part of it. Sometimes it requires active effort to just go out there and experience it and learn about it. And people like Dan, even when we went out there, were helping us like facilitate in terms of like, oh, this who to pop out to or whatever. And I think Dan's the one that introduced us as well.
Yeah, he is at Mazar.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that kind of thing where I think like it is cool that like generally the snowball effect happens, but sometimes you got to like step out of your own bubble and make that effort. I feel like that's super important.
Yeah. I hope that is the takeaway for everybody, that if somebody was to take something away from this, like I would hope it was that, right? Because like somebody like Dan, somebody like Shab, somebody like Sharad here, right? Like you don't know how many times like those guys have been like, yo, like this person's here, right? Like hit them.
Yeah.
Right? Just hit them, right? Or like, bro, like we're at Masala Mixtape, right? And like, obviously like Farouk is there from the UK, right?
Yeah,
and then
shout out Farouk.
Dan's there because he's also just there, right? And then he's like, yo, y'all got to make that happen, right? And like, I'm like, oh, like that is like the real value, right? Because like, again, huge look for me, right? But creates a narrative like long term, right? Like we said it, like when you look at hip hop like 20 years ago, it's the same characters.
Yeah.
Just 20 years down the line, right? I'm sure when we look at, not even we look at, even if you look at it now, if I think about like the Kahani, the Anis, right? I'm sure when they look back 3 years from today,
right,
they're just like, oh wait, it's the same people.
It's just over here.
It's just over here now.
Yeah.
The people that kept showing up.
It's the people that kept showing up. It's like the same businesses that you were working with 3 years ago, but now there's more money in it.
Yeah.
Right? And now like, yo, like you moving, like, again, like I went to the first Indo maybe like 2 years back, right?
Right.
And they had a Kolkata Chai like placement.
Sponsor, yeah.
Okay, now 3 years down, you definitely bigger. you
Right.
also definitely bigger,
Yup.
right? And now it's like, the business things, it might, at some point y'all are going to link up again, right? Whether it's tomorrow, whether it's the day, like 2 years from now, y'all going to link up again. And there's going to be even more eyes on this from both, most likely.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like the exciting part, like just observing, right? Like doing this for a year, just seeing like everybody's progression. Like you posted it out, right? You went to Indo in Toronto.
Yeah, I did. So me and Salo, we went there. We were waiting outside in the rain for like tickets because it was sold out. We got door tickets and we went there. I didn't know I was gonna end up here, playing with them. It's crazy.
Isn't that insane?
It's insane. Yeah.
That's what, a year ago, 2 years ago?
No, this year, like in March,
Crazy.
March or April.
Things been going crazy this year for sure.
Right.
This year was crazy. It's like, how did I end up here? Think about that.
I think like that's like the beauty of it, right? Like you just have to give it like time.
You just have to have faith. Honestly, it's like when things are for you. So it's like there's no stress. It's like even being there, I was like, it's cool. Like I'll come here. Like I know this is for me. So like I gotta be here.
That's where my hippie shit comes in. I'm all like, the universe, you really like feel like, because I'm like thinking about like all the things I was doing before I was even doing this. Right now, everything is with like a purpose and mission under, right? Yeah. But I was like, damn, I was like hitting up. Back when I was in college, I was still hitting up Ani to like work for him, like just off of being a fan.
Just hustling, yeah.
Right? Just off of being a fan. Now, of course, like, there's like business involved, all of that, right? But just as a fan, right? Like,
that's sick.
Like, those are the things that I think like, it's like, like, I have an email. It's crazy. I have an email to Kahani from 2020. Kahani posted something on some other project he was working on like 4 or 5 years back, right? And I just searched his name because like we're emailing back and forth. And it's an email from 2020. I just screenshot and just sent it to him. I'm like, isn't that crazy? Like 4 years ago, I was still trying to, you know what I mean? Like I knew that there was something here, right? Like, and I think that for all of y'all, like I'm sure, like like you tapped in so early to this.
Yeah, bro. Let me tell you, you just mentioned Farouk too, bro. Like I be watching the pod, so I seen Farouk got audio through your podcast, and whenever I like someone on the pod, I hit him up like, yo, I'm trying to tap in. And then he came to Toronto, like literally, he's like, yo, I'm coming to Toronto like 2 weeks from now, let's link. So I went to his show, we linked up, and then you made that connection, bro, without even meeting me yet. You feel me?
Bro, and I'm so glad that you do that.
Yeah,
right? 'Cause that should be like that should be, because everybody, like we try to like really work hard to curate like the guest list, right? Because everybody to me is connected. Like if you've been on this pod, like I feel like there's a connection somewhere here.
Yeah.
Right? And there is.
Well, you're the connection right there already. Yeah.
Not even outside of me, right? Because I know that there's connections. Like there's people that know people that they're like, oh, like shit,
course,
my boy did the pod, right? Like that in New York especially. Like,
all the time.
Yo, if I go outside, right? It's like, yo, like my boy did the pod.
Yeah.
Or my homegirl did the pod. And I'm all like, oh, that's amazing.
That's sick.
But hopefully because your boy did the pod and that's why you watched, you then see
the other episodes.
RMS, and then you go on Instagram, which everybody does, and see like, oh shit, we got like 100 mutuals, right? Like let me tap in.
Yeah.
Right. And then from that, like they see Spitty. Right. And then they're like, oh, Spitty did like whatever, right? Whoever else is next in that line.
Yeah, it kind of like brings that niche group of people together in a way.
It grows the niche too.
It does.
That community, that ecosystem we're talking about.
That ecosystem, because some people might just be a fan of like the Toronto scene as it is, without even knowing or understanding that there is a larger scene at play here. That it's a smaller niche of a bigger niche.
Yeah.
But
I feel like this would also like whoever doesn't know about the Toronto scene, like everybody in New York now would probably know about it.
And that is the goal. Like I prioritize, like if somebody's like coming out of New York, like they become like Spitty told me that you were here, right? So I was like, okay, let's make that happen, right?
Yeah.
Because like to me, that's like the important part, right? When we talk about like the business side of it, the markets connecting is when there's more money in this.
For sure.
When like supporting like Spitty is not a Toronto play, it's a South Asian demo play.
Global play.
Exactly.
It's a global play.
And it's all connected, bro. You're talking about showing up, bro. This guy came with me like to some events in Toronto. Every other man already knows him, bro, because he's going viral out in Toronto. He hasn't been there yet as like a music artist. You haven't been there ever.
I haven't been there.
You've never been there ever, bro. And we're at events, people are like, bro, I know you. And I'm like, yo, this is sick. Like that. It was sick just as his boy, just to like experience that for him. You feel me?
We get to see a lot of that in like New York, honestly.
Yeah.
Right?
But I feel like going to a city you've never been to and people already showing you love, like that's gotta be a crazy
alien, bro. Like every week it's a different viral hit, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's what I mean. Like y'all are constantly on.
Yeah.
Like constantly on, right? And that will happen like more and more.
Of course.
Right? Like I'm sure people saw just because overlapping audiences, people will see they see Trill set in Mumbai. And then there's a huge fan base of Indo in Mumbai.
Yeah.
Right? They just played like multiple shows in the last
They're going back just now.
the last
They were
year.
just there.
And they're going back.
They're doing New Year's Eve in Mumbai.
So now they're
last
like,
year.
okay, like I can observe this because I went to her show, but I also went to their show, or I'm going to go to their show
Exactly.
in 3 months. And she's
Yeah.
also playing with them in New York.
Yeah.
It's like cool for fans to even see.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I think so, bro. I grew up like seeing these things like bits and pieces, you know, in the Desi scene, even in the Punjabi scene, and like rooting for those guys, even just the local people. There's so many people out of Brampton that never made it like as far as they could have. But you know, I was always like, yo, like right from the jump, it's just like when you see someone like that represents you, you're like, yo, I want to see you win. You feel me?
Yeah.
So it's like that. It's like that. I hope all the people watching, they're like, yeah, like you winning, us winning is like all of us winning.
You think our curious question for both of y'all, right? Like you think that obviously like in South Asian like diaspora culture, you think that there's different tastes between the two markets? Because like you see that in hip hop, obviously, like there's New York hip hop, right? And then there's LA hip hop, and that has like, very distinct, unique sounds, right? You think that we're developed enough, or do you feel like that the Toronto sound and scene has a different flavor to it than New York?
The Toronto brown scene versus the New York brown scene?
Mm-hmm. You think there's like a different level of...
Personally, I think there's just different artists in each of those spaces. Like we're talking about Finesse. Finesse is way different than RMS, who's different than PD, who's different than like Anik Khan. And it's, I don't know, to me it's the same in Toronto. It's like I'm different than Asuka, who's different than Ashub, who's different than Rohizi or whatever. You know, we all got like our own vibe. So that's kind of how I see it. Like there's just so much diversity within the diaspora in each of those places. So I think it's more like you were saying before, where all those cities are like more connected than they are different. To me. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's so much diversity even right here, and just like there is probably over there, where you can find, it's just about finding your people wherever it is, you know, finding the people whose value system and taste aligns with you. Like you can find that here or in any city because there already is that diversity. But I also think it, again, just like emphasizes the value in building horizontally, because you gotta build horizontally to build your foundation. Only then can you level up and build, right? It's like that is so important for us.
Clip that.
Bars, brick by brick, yo, that's bars.
I was just having this conversation with Bilal yesterday, and we were talking about like the importance of that, because even me and him, and you know, me and all these amazing artists, different worlds and different tastes and different, you know, approaches, but same value system, right? Same goal. So
same intentions. Yeah.
That's it.
I think that's like the flyest thing that we're like getting to see, right? That everybody seems, again, hopefully it's like sustainable. Everybody seems like driven towards like this like larger like mission, right? Like the same conversation that I have with y'all is the same conversation I'm having 5 different times with 5 different people.
Facts.
Right? And that's
good.
like exciting as fuck, because I'm all like, if I'm having those 5 different conversations, I'm sure y'all are too. And then it's like, yo, like those people aren't even having those conversations with y'all, maybe, or maybe you guys are, right? Like I'm sure, like again, like I'm sure that you've had some conversations like that with Shabs, Dan, right? It's like, oh, we've had those same conversations independently,
Exactly.
right? And then when you get to have those conversations over and over again, you're like, wow, everybody is kind of tied into the same mission, right? It truly is just growing this thing so we can like really take it to wherever we're taking it, right? And that's like exciting, because like you
To the top.
we also have the privilege of having people that are further along in that process, right? Like, you know, like obviously in some ways we don't have a path forward, but in some ways we kind of do,
Yeah.
right? Like we have the benefit of Shabs, who's done the music industry thing for like 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like Dan,
with
who's been making music since he was like 18, right? Like you have those semi paths forward. Nah, it's crazy. What is y'all moment when y'all like realize that? Like the thing that we're talking about right now. What is everybody's like, yo, conversation or moment where you're like, yo, this could be like a real fucking thing?
There's been a few for me, but just off the top, I'll go first to let y'all think. Is this summer, there was Boiler Room Festival, the second one in Toronto, which is like, you know, Boiler Room, but this is a festival. So it's all day, multiple stages, multiple events. And on the main stage, right in like the peak of the day, 3 back-to-back Desi DJs, Punjabi Hit Squad, I Had a Dream, and Young Singh. And we were right there in the main stage, like right behind the DJ booth the whole time. You look around, it's bare brown people, everyone's smiling, like, and then I mean, Mrii can speak on it more too, but she's got an event called a Mazar with Saleh, who's in the room too. That's like Desi edits mixed with house, Amapiano, Afro beats, all that kind of stuff. And like every time you're there, you see that community and you see them resonating with the music and just like showing that love, you know? So for me, that was a big spark to see it, because like online you hear it and we feel the love, but when you see those people just in a room, just smiling and enjoying themselves, it was a beautiful. And Boiler Room, we know, is like one of the biggest kind of stages you can be on. Yeah. And so to see like a kind of brown takeover was beautiful.
Nah, that's fire.
It's crazy to see like once you actually put out that like, all right, this is a space for the brown people. This is the music. This is where we're going to be creating and presenting this and like actively like growing this culture here. Like everyone that resonates with it just pulls up. And when you see that, all right, this is here and like it really attracts so many people or so much like growth. It's just, it just feels really real in that moment. It's like, okay, like this is a thing now. Like we're all doing this. This is normal. Like this is what it should be, basically.
A space for us, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because once you can prove that it's a thing, then it's just a matter of size.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's just a matter of size. Because once you can prove that it's a thing, that there's like an audience.
Exactly.
Like again, like as an artist, like the same thing. All you need is that one hit to be like, yo, I'm nice. Exactly. Right? It's just a matter of getting it again. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. I put on this, you've been doing now Mazar for how long?
Mazar since September last year.
Since September last year. How many shows have you had?
8 or 9.
That's real, like, yo, like 8 times getting this many people coming out.
Yeah.
And I popped out. I went there and the energy was insane. Yeah. Like I've been to a lot of events, a lot of DJ type events and stuff. And it's like, energy about that was real special. Me and Shaylin talked about it later. Yeah. It's like the type of people, the type of music, like just off of vibes and energy and enjoyment. You could see people are there to obviously like have a good time, but people are also really there for the music. Like it's not just a party with some music in the background. It's like very much a music-based community. And that was special because like I said, I've been to a lot around here, and it's like you obviously have the big ones that have popped off and stuff, but not everybody's able to curate the vibe that y'all curated. So that's worth celebrating.
Thank you. It's very important like to focus on the music, the DJs, and be very intentional about the order of DJs, the genre that they play, the vibes that they bring, and the energy. Like the presence is so important.
Yeah, the presence, that's a big one for sure. Because that sets the whole vibe of like what you want your party to be, you know? A lot of parties are just trying to be cool or whatever. It's more like bottle service and popping out. And like these guys have never been focused on that. It's always been about, like they've downsized one time just to make sure like they went back to the core community, see what that vibe was like, just to test it out after they hit like a rack plus people at a venue, you know?
Yo, I do think that this might be unpopular, but in New York, I feel like we're seeing a rejection of the commercial event to what you're describing.
There too.
To what you're just because I think that like you are seeing more of like people looking for the music because I think that there was a era in New York like recently that was just this is a party and there's music in the background and this is where we're just gathering, right? But I think from the artist down to the consumer, it's starting to become like a rejection of that into like the real art, because everybody who's like really winning, like their only focus is the art. Like if you talk to like Kanye Kunal, it's not like, yo, we're just about to throw the craziest banger, right? Like it's truly the art. Right? Like, and I think like that's across the board. Like the people that are focusing in on like putting out the best concept art. Those are the people that are now winning. Because in New York especially, I feel like there was like a quick opportunity, of course, right? Bottle service, club culture, right? Let's get some bread out of this.
Everybody knows 100 brown promoters.
Exactly.
Right? Like
NJ is just like Brampton. I'm telling you, we're driving around NJ. We're like, this is just big Brampton.
It is. No, it really is.
That's why you gotta pop out there. What?
Did you get through Edison?
We haven't been to Edison now.
Not this time, but I have a lot of family there. So
You want to feel Brampton?
I got family in they call it Parsippany. Parsippany, Parsippany. Yeah.
That's how I felt right at home.
Edison is
you know.
It's so Brampton.
Brampton, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that I kind of want to see, like, because like obviously like my concept of is Edison, but obviously everybody talks about Brampton.
Brampton is cool though.
Is this Browntown?
I think Brampton is like a little different. It's like I feel like it might be more diverse than Edison. I don't know.
Edison is definitely like, I think it's like the top, it might be like top 1 or top 2, like most centralized South Asian place in the US.
Yeah.
We are too. But
ours is very diverse still.
But yeah, it's a lot of different types of people. And there's still other people. There's a lot of like Caribbean people. There's a lot of Filipino people, other like Europeans, Portuguese and stuff. So
I do think that kind of like leaks. That's like, I would say like a difference in like South Asian New York, New Jersey culture and South Asian Toronto culture. Maybe because of that reason, like I do see more of a fusion of sounds.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Fusion of like a lot of like Afrobeat sounds, right?
For
Like
sure.
very Caribbean based sounds, right?
Yes.
We see a lot less of that,
Is
I
it
would
very
say,
like
in the New York.
South Asian dance?
South Asian dance, like when you see the leaks in, it's like the leak is to like direct EDM and not necessarily like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
I see.
yeah, you
like
go,
ours is very diaspora focused, so it's not really South Asian exactly, but like there's like Indo-Caribbean, there's people from Africa that are like South Asian descent. Like there's so many different, like it goes so
all
much
mixing
deeper.
together. Yeah.
So,
I feel like the people who have bounced out of that and done it is Kahani and Kunal, obviously with like Indo, right? Because again, like a huge, they're just like music nerds, you can tell, right? So there's a true fusion of sounds.
Exactly.
And I do think that some of the other DJs that are coming up now are tracking towards that based off of their own taste too. But I think like for the longest time to be considered like a South Asian DJ, like you just had to just lean into the niche.
Yeah, you do. You kind of
Like you just have to lean into the niche. Like you have to flip chaya chaya, right? Or you have
You
like,
still do. You still do,
right?
You still do.
Yeah, you
but,
gotta.
But I think once you feel established in that, like any other artist, like you're willing to take more creative
Yes.
risks, right? You're like, I don't just have to be like, Oh Fresh does like a great job, right? Where you
shout
can
out
tell,
DJ Fresh.
Yeah, shout out Oh Fresh, right? Like his like music taste is so much more like, I always tell him like is a lot more similar to my taste, right? And I'm like, I'm glad that you're flipping Chaya Chaya, but I'm glad that you're flipping it with like some ASAP, right? Or I'm glad that you're flipping it with like some Drake, right?
Yeah.
Because like that to me is fly. Like that's my taste.
it represents both sides of you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And like that's what we're all like when you talk about like diaspora culture, like you're just looking for kids that like feel both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like you're not looking for like that's when we talk about like our market, that's like the best way to explain it. It's just like people looking at both sides. Right? Because we're not like the brown like, all I watched was Bollywood.
Exactly.
Right? And that was my entire
We
personality.
didn't grow up there. Yeah.
But we're also not, we're not like, all I did was like only listen to hip hop and like only like
Or like country or something. You grew up just around white people.
Yeah, like we grew up truly as a amalgamation of multiple cultures, multiple sounds, right? And like we just want to be in pockets and be in spaces that feel like that.
Yeah. And with people like Indo and Kahani and Kunal, it's like they're able to kind of be a little bit of a blueprint for a lot of events, whether it's in DJ space or otherwise, where it's like, we're giving the consumers a choice. Like you can go to these generic events and with just music in the background, or you can come to these like heavily thought out, curated, conceptual, unique sound events. Like if you have the choice, why would the audience go any other way? So once the choice starts becoming more popular and people have real choices of like high quality product, in this case live events, but it could be anything. It's like you're creating the blueprint for what will exponentially grow. And like literally the advice he gave me yesterday when we were just talking about creative and music stuff was like figuring out how to balance that. Like, of course we want the familiarity, but also we want to figure out how to make your sound unique and what that means. We were talking more on like a nerdy like producer vibe, but just generally like what is your DNA and how does that translate even when you remove certain things from it? He was saying like remove your vocals from a song, can people still tell it's your song and your identity? But that same principle still holds for like Mazar, for any other kind of like event or series where it's like even the pod, where it's like you got to have a string that ties everything together, right? You got to have a DNA and a value system that ties things together.
Because if it doesn't, right? Like if you're just trying like, that's like an active, I'm so glad that you are having those conversations artistically, because those are things that like I truly feel challenges in for as well. Like sometimes like I want to like lean into like, I know certain things are just going to be commercially viable. So there's certain you know what I'm saying? And it is like a balance of, but I know like what a true, like when this is just about the artistry of doing this, right? I know the product looks and sounds very different than this is commercially viable. But I think like it's tough because like at some point, like because of that DNA, you become commercially viable because everybody who rocks with your thing will find you. But imagine like, again, like you tapped in, right? You tapped in. Imagine I just change up the complete like whatever, right? And you're like, wait, this is not the DNA of the guy that I like, locked in with.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is not that. So I'm no longer a supporter. right? Like that happens on like the artistry level, right? Because if I just change up to become like if I just come up here and start talking like very like
old Kanye,
very different,
like this old Kanye.
But you see that, right? But again, eventually you build enough of a relationship with your fan base and all of that where they will rock with you wherever those artistic endeavors go.
Yeah, like a Tyler,
right? Who's
Kendrick,
able to jump sounds, right? But you have to establish the relationship first.
Yeah, you do.
Right? Like again, like the same thing, like I'm glad that like people are seeing Indo as an example, but I also want to make sure that people are still being authentic to their DNA.
Exactly.
Like we don't need 18 of the same house sounds because y'all think that that's commercially viable. We need, because you grew up around the Trinis and the Caribbeans, right? Like we need that sound too because that's authentic to you. Right? Like we don't need the same copy and paste of Indo, right? Just because they've proved that it's commercially viable.
Exactly.
They didn't even think about it being commercially viable.
Right.
They're kind of telling their story with their music, right? It's kind of what you have to do.
And then they found that a bunch of people rocked with that story. Right? Like the same way. Y'all have, I'm sure, very different fan bases. Right? Because y'all have very different musical DNAs. Right? Like the flow style, again, y'all might have a little bit more overlap.
We got
y'all definitely have more overlap. Y'all are the worst examples for this because now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, bro, honestly, they both like the alien types where it's just like, flow.
Bro, when
right?
RMS went viral this year, like comments, people are sending me his video like, yo, you got to collab with this guy. Comments, yo, Spitty, collab with RMS. I'm just laughing because we had the song since last year, bro. In the tuck, ready to go.
Yo, but that's important.
Yeah.
The in the tuck, ready to go.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like you don't know when the timing of those things like will make sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's facts. It worked out. Like
it worked out really well.
The song was just coming together. Like we were taking our time with it, doing the mix, whatever. I was doing my vocal, everything. It was happening. It was part of the album too. But then when it came out, he went viral. And then like a week before, I went viral for the first time on Instagram. So now it's like we both just got these numbers coming in. And then that song's now like on pace to probably be my biggest song ever.
Jeez.
Being able to capitalize on that from multiple perspectives, like the product being the music, but also like on the relationship side. Sometimes I'm like, damn, like I wish that there was already a relationship here because now would make sense. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like now would make sense for us to like go do these things. Like I tell people all the time, like, there's a bunch of artists in New York that I'm just like, yo, right now, just, like I want to have you on, right? But it don't make sense right now. But like, let's have a relationship. Because then when it does, when it's when whatever, the thread makes sense because, yo, let's just say like y'all said somebody's name on this pod, right? And I already have a relationship with them. All right, let's build that thread. Y'all said something, right? Like, let's do it right after.
Yeah.
But if the relationship isn't there, right, or I have to create it now out of urgency, we're not going to be able to create it.
Yeah.
Like having that established, like being able to hit go at the right time, is valuable.
Yeah. Because it's built on authenticity.
Right? Like it's built on authenticity because again, y'all didn't know that was coming.
At all.
Like y'all didn't know that was coming.
No.
It's like what you're saying, a lot of faith and a lot of just like intuition and sending it.
And I think like sending it, right?
Yeah.
I think the trust in that is like when you see like the Hanis, like even y'all, right? Like the thing that y'all do is that y'all just get to the work.
Exactly.
Y'all just get to the work.
Right.
That really is like what I like. You can over strategize and all of that, but y'all just get to the work.
And we clocked 20K steps yesterday, and then we got a 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. studio session to practice for tomorrow.
Crazy.
No,
Crazy.
I'm seeing that.
My guy's sleeping in the corner, but we thug it out.
Bro,
we thug it out.
Yo, that's exactly what people don't like. Again, like y'all just get to the work.
That's it.
Like this. I'm so glad that you posted that. Right? Because I'm all like, yo, they don't realize that's why she gets that opportunity tomorrow.
Like I had to be there, you know, I have to like show up for myself and then whatever comes will come find me.
You don't even know like whatever slide, who's gonna be there, what's gonna listen. But yo, am I prepared? Right? Like imagine like you just like, let's say like blew up, but you never established the skill set. Just you got
You're
lucky.
cooked.
And then Kanye could all invite you. And then they're all like, never mind, she's horrible, right? Like
and we see it all the time.
You see it all the time, right? Like somebody just can grab a hit because they got lucky, but then they've never established the skill set and repertoire to be an artist or to be a DJ and rock a room. Right? Like you just think because you have whatever like thing, right? Like you see it because the barrier for entry for podcasting is so low.
Right.
You just see like people who are like, yo, you know what? I got an extra like 5K. Like let me go put that into a pod.
Rap too. Rap's the same way.
Rap's the same thing.
Rap and podcasting, they got a lot of similarities.
No, even DJing. Even DJing now.
DJing.
You don't need. It doesn't take a lot to actually start becoming a DJ.
Yeah, it's virtual DJ in that. Yeah,
bro, that is my biggest. That is my biggest pet peeve. I know, you probably feel that pet peeve more as a DJ. Yo, the press press play DJs that are like, I'm like, damn, I know every mix in this and none of them are yours. Yo, you are just hitting play on this playlist and you are doing the transition, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe. But that's about it.
Yeah.
But then like you see like the true aliens, and I think like an audience might not understand like the technical things behind why this person is
But like
amazing.
you can hear it, you can feel it in the energy, you know?
You can feel it in
Like-
the energy, right? Like I'm saying Farungi and Kahani play this like Georgia Room, right? And I'm seeing like, I'm like, yo, these guys are like having a blast. Like I don't even know what they're doing on the bus, but I know that they're doing something.
Yeah, it's like a journey, you know? They're taking you on one. They're on one themselves while they're playing.
And that's when you see the crowd like flip. Like I could see the energy, and it's not just because like honestly, most of that crowd I don't even think realized that Kahani was playing. But you could see the crowd turn around because the Georgia Room is like this very open, everybody's chatting, doing their thing, right? And then you could see a crowd start to form around the DJ booth as they get really into it. Like I'm watching it happen. Like I see my friends in the background too, right? And I see people start to converge on it just off of you're starting to feel like you as a DJ, you just got them.
It's aura, like
you just got them.
Aura.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just got them, right?
Exactly.
Like I always bring up the way that I asked you guys that question. Like my moment when I saw like culture really twice. First was Z played No Nuzzer maybe like a year ago now, right?
Fire.
And she opened the set the same way that Ahad opened his Boiler Room set.
Yeah, in Toronto.
And
really? Sick.
Yeah. And I like again maybe because P's there. There's like a bunch of people that like families there, right? And I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, there's like an energy here, right? And that's like first step. Second step was Indo this year, right? Because like again, like it's insane for me because I'm like looking back and I'm like, damn, they got Brooklyn Mirage, and you're like seeing it from like the DJ angle, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then after you're seeing like, yo, there's so many random people, not even random, but like everybody.
People, right?
People
In the
from
community, they came
corner.
together.
I'm like, Sharad is here, Mickey Singh is here, Tesher is here,
Right.
Right.
That's the thing.
Like Shabs is here, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then obviously all of the New York fam, right? Like P's here. Like I'm just like, oh, it's like a thing.
Yeah. For me, that was in May. So on May 4th, we had Mazar, and that Mazar was when I was like, oh, I think we all collectively felt something that day. We're like, wow, okay, this is a scene. Because there's people from like the dance community. Like Bollywood dance has been so big in Toronto for like for more than 20 years. There's people that work with like the Bollywood industries. Like when IFA Awards came to Toronto, these same people were working with them. I grew up like seeing them like facilitating so many big things in Toronto. Those people were now at Mazar dancing. They wanted to be there. They were hosting it that time. They now dance with us on our bigger stages. They perform with the DJ remixes. They perform on our edits. It's like so many overlapping things. There's Tesher there in the room. There's random people from different like niches and corners. And that's when you know like, okay, all these people are here enjoying this. Like this is really good. Like this is a vibe.
I think the importance of like live events, honestly, sometimes in the internet we forget because we like put the barrier to like us knowing each other at so low, like, oh, like we just got mutuals, right? Yeah. But I'm like, yo, that actually like tangibly on a physical level means something.
It does.
Right? As long as there's real relationships. Obviously like people follow like a billion people, right? And they don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
But it's like when there's real relationships there, you're just like, oh no, that actually means like a lot. Like when I go to somebody's page and I see like, because especially now, right? And I see that like, yo, like we got mad mutuals that we don't, and we've never met, right? But it's like those mutuals aren't just like some intangible mutuals.
Exactly.
Those are people that we actually know, fuck with. There's a relationship there, right?
There's a face behind the name.
Exactly.
So that's where like the physical events like end up being like super important, right? Like obviously like, yo, like outside of this pod, like we're probably gonna see each other tonight, tomorrow. Right? And it's like we outside.
For real.
But that's important, right? To remain like, yo, like this, like at the end of all of this, like of course, like the marketing stuff, like the numbers on socials are important, right? But like at the end of it, knowing that there's true physical community at the base of this, that is like the most important thing. Like the most important thing. We are wrapping up, but I end every pod with a segment called Call Your Shot. The idea being is that y'all say something next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever timeline, something that you will make happen. The idea is you get to say it up here. I get to, when y'all inevitably do it, I get to clip that shit up and post it, send it to y'all, all of that. So y'all call your shot. I'll let y'all go in whatever order. Whoever has this.
All right, I got one.
Let's hear it.
All right, we've been talking about Indo a lot. They're doing Coachella 2025. That's my goal right there. I'm trying to do Coachella.
Coachella
For sure.
Coachella.
Yeah, we're trying to do Coachella.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think I got a lot I'm trying to choose, but
Right.
I think just off top, Easy, Millie on a song is a great start.
Jeez.
One Level Up is a similar vibe, but headline festival, any kind of festival, I think would be sick. I saw, not this year, but last year I saw Kendrick do Gov Ball, and I'm like, that's a crazy vibe, right? Very different than his like arena shows. For me, I'm like, I'm a headline a festival. It's gonna be fire. Hopefully in New York too. That would be crazy.
Mm-hmm. For me, I'll say like in the near future, I see a boiler room in my near future. So.
A boiler room?
Yeah.
Are you saying that knowingly?
No.
Nah. I was like, yeah,
bro, we manifested it.
Maybe.
You gotta say it like it's knowingly.
I'm saying it knowingly. Yeah, you're right. I am saying it knowingly. I'm saying it knowingly. Like I see it in my near future. That's what I'm saying.
You're in the universe, no.
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, I like love when like somebody makes that happen. Like, right, it'd be shocking to me. I'm like, yo, that's amazing, right? Because you really did know that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even if you didn't know that, like the details, if the date wasn't set, you still knew that, that was going to happen. Like, Trisha just opened up Brown Girl Studio, right? Her call, her shot was, I'm about to open up the studio, right? Like maybe 3-4 months later, you see the announcement that it's coming in. I'm like, yeah.
Brown Girl Studio? I didn't know about this.
Yeah, they have the clubhouse, Brown Girl Clubhouse. Yeah,
they got a new space.
That's fire. You gotta tap in while you're out here.
I gotta.
Yeah. Like on Midtown, but fire. Yo, y'all, appreciate y'all doing this. I'm so glad that we were all able to tap in. But thank y'all for listening. Peace.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.
That was sick, bro. That was fun.
That was fun, bro.
Family.
Oh, I forgot about